Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I've grown into the person that I am today. I don't know what that is. So anyway, today I have two meditations to read. I haven't read either one of them. I skimmed over them quickly, and I'm sitting here sipping my coffee. I have a little hair on my shirt or something. My husband is upstairs, and he's getting ready to pick a new series to watch on Netflix. And yeah, it's a beautiful evening in Indianapolis. It's actually a lot cooler today. It's like in the mid-70s, which is really nice. We needed a break from the heat. I love the heat. I love the humidity, but at the same time, it's nice to have a little break from it today. So, and I am currently doing Reading Rush over on my BookTube channel, which is a week-long reading challenge. And I started last night. I started 4 different books actually last night. And so I'm really excited to spend the evening just sitting around and reading tonight. I'm so excited for it. So, okay. The first book that I chose to read today is Healing After Loss, Daily Meditations for Working Through Grief by Martha Whitmore Hickman. And I just skimmed it. So I want to read you the first quote, which is by Kierkegaard. July 22nd. To live in the religious spirit is not easy. The believer is continually on a deep sea, 70,000 fathoms deep. It is a great thing, floating on 70,000 fathoms of water and beyond all human aid to be happy. It is a little thing and not at all religious to swim in shallow water with a host of waders. No matter how long the religious man lies out there, it does not mean that little by little he will reach land again. He can become quieter, attain a sense of security, love jests, and the merry mind, but to the last moment he lies over 70,000 fathoms of water. When we have lost a loved one, we are especially attuned to the world of spirit. At the same time, there is a sense of being cut loose from our moorings. We are, figuratively speaking, at sea. Perhaps these words of Kierkegaard can help. I don't know, because it was very confusing to me, but we are indeed afloat over deep water, with all of our questions about the meaning of life, the nature of death. We were never in control, though perhaps we thought we were. Then after a while, with our questions still spinning in our heads, we learn to trust the sea, that it is buoyant and will bear our weight. I will rest back on the ocean of unknowing, trusting that I can ride its swells and its troughs without peril. It's an interesting meditation to me, and I guess I didn't understand the beginning of it, but it's basically just like trusting the process of trusting the journey, you know? And at the first, when I read it, I was a little confused by it, which doesn't surprise me that I'm a little confused by Kierkegaard. But anyway, I think the last time that I discussed any of his writing was in college in like a philosophy class. So anyway, you know, it's interesting in looking at grief, and especially, I would say, going back to the grief related to the passing of my mother, and I know I talk a lot about that on here, but that passing is so specifically unique to me, in a way different to other passings that I've had in my life. You know, when I lost a friend in my 20s that had taken his life, it was surreal to me. I wasn't, like, it was one day I was talking to him, the next day that he was gone, you know? And it felt surreal. Like, I think the one word I would use to anybody in my life that has passed is surreal. It feels so strange to me, you know? And, you know, I've had many, many friends of mine in my life that have passed from drugs and alcohol. Many people that I've known in my life. And, you know, my aunt and uncle passed a couple years ago. And then just this, you know, the last couple months, like Alex's friend was killed in a tragic car accident. And then a friend of mine passed away. And, you know, it was the result of long-term opioid use. And then I just found out last week from my sponsor that somebody that I have known for a very long time passed away in the winter, and I didn't even know it. I think it's surreal, you know, and I think the thing is, especially with the people that, like, I haven't seen, like, it's strange when I'm thinking about the friend of mine that I found out that had just passed away. You know, we weren't friends that kept in contact very closely anymore, but when I would see him, I'd be like, hey, it's great to see you, and whatever, you know, and I had known him for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. Off and on, I would see him, you know, at times, and it's crazy to me. And the last time I saw him was actually at a recovery event, and he was showing me pictures of his baby that he had just had with his girlfriend, and it's just very sad, you know, and, but I think closure is important to some of those situations, maybe. Like, you know, I think about situations like, I don't want to get into too much of this, especially with my husband sitting upstairs listening, but like with his friend that passed, like, you know, I didn't see it. I wasn't there. For me, there wasn't a lot of closure. There was this beautiful celebration of life that was fantastic with speakers and things, but it almost felt like at any moment that he could walk out. And it was very similar with my friend that passed recently, because not the one that I found out about, but the one before. I hadn't seen him in a while. The last time I had seen him saw him was like 2 years ago. So it's surreal to me. It's almost like I could get a call, from any moment, or, like Alex's friend was just standing in our living room like the week before. So it's bizarre. With my aunt and uncle, they had been sick for a really long time. So I was kind of prepared for it. My aunt, I think, and my uncle both were ready. They were both ready. They had both vocalized that they were ready. And I think that makes it easier sometimes. But, each passing is completely different. Our grief to each one is completely different. Having gone through it, my mom's passing prepared me for my aunt and uncles. I know that today. And before my mom passed away, I was terrified to die. I was terrified of death. I still have that feeling today, but today it's different. I think I respect it. I respect the cycle, of life, and that we're, like in Charlotte's Web, Wilbur says, we're born, we live, we die. I respect that today in a way that I think I feared before. It doesn't mean that I'm ready for it. It doesn't mean that I want it to happen. It just means that I respect it today, and I understand it, and I understand that that's what's going to happen, One of my favorite movies, the Miss Firecracker Contest with Holly Hunter, it was a play for many, many years, and they made it into a movie, and Alfre Woodard is in it too, and I think it might be both of their first movies. And there's a scene when she's going across the mantle of her house, and she's showing all these old pictures of like old people in her family that she never even knew, and she was like, this is my Aunt Sally, and she's dead, and and they're all like these old pictures, and this is Uncle, Jed, and he's dead, and she goes through them, and she looks at Alfre Woodard, and she goes, they say we're all going to die someday, and I believe it too. And it's said kind of in jest, but it's kind of like this thought that I don't think many of us think about, I think this idea of being tied to our spirituality at a time of passing is extremely poignant, I think that many of us going through that, we either are very, very, if we have a spiritual belief, because many of us don't, and then we don't know what to make of it, it's like, okay, it's just, they're done, they're over, they're gone, forever. But for those of us that do have spiritual beliefs, like myself, I think we go through something where we're either very, very angry with our higher power, very confused, or, like we feel either more spiritually tied to, like, I don't know, feelings of, are they around us? Kind of like, we talk the spirit, we say that, if you say that at the time that somebody passes, if you say like, well, I can feel them around you, or they're always going to be with you, or whatever, like that's kind of psychic stuff, right? But like if you say it like 5 years down the road, and it's like, well, I think I saw them or something, then people look at you kind of strange. But at that time, it's something that we say that's nice to people, I think I felt very spiritually connected to my mom, or spiritually connected to a higher power when my mom passed, because I knew that I believed that she was passing into something, and to, something else. And I very much believe that, my mother was somebody that very much believed that we were of the soul, and that we were just a bag of soul, and that when we left here, we went somewhere else. And she believed that firmly, and I believed that firmly. And, but I think at that time, my prayer was stronger, and, because, at times my spiritual beliefs ebb and flow. They're stronger at sometimes than others, And I think that's what happened when my mom was sick and when she passed, But ask me 6 months later, do I still feel as spiritually connected as I did, 2 days before my mom passed away? Probably not, I probably, because it wasn't like as immediate of a need. And so maybe that's the lesson out of it, in practicing a closer spiritual belief and practices for me, not just on those moments, but as if throughout the rest of the time, with my aunt and uncle when they passed, it was a lot of prayer for peace and serenity, and for not only them, but my cousin and, my husband and myself and everybody else, that we would make it through that, and the changing of our family and things like that. And I always, like at those moments, pray for those family and friends and the close ones, and, pray for those people continuously in my prayers, and I think, it's hard in those moments, like I remember several years ago, I had a very close friend of mine that passed from meningitis. It's probably been the hardest passing that I've dealt with since my mom died. And, I remember, because he literally got sick and then within a week was gone. And It kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody really understood it. It didn't make a lot of sense. And I remember getting the call from his mom. I'm only going to read this meditation book today because this video is getting long. But I remember getting the call from his mom, and she was like, you know, I wanted to call you and let you know, and if you want to come and say goodbye, because we're going to take him off life support. And I just remember standing upstairs in the bedroom, and like, I was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm not prepared for this. I wasn't ready for it, you know? And like 2 days before, they were telling me that things were going great at the hospital, and then 2 days later, you know, 3 days later, his mom's calling me, and she's like, you know, it's taken a turn for the worse the last 2 days. And I remember I called my friend Tanya, and I said, I can't do this. Like, I cannot go and say goodbye to him, you know? And she said to me, you're going to go do this. You're going to go. He was a very good friend to you, and he would be there for you. And, you know, I remember going, and I sat beside his bed, and I just had this weird feeling, like a really good feeling inside that everything for him was going to be okay. Some of us, you know, live to be 17. Some of us live to be 77. Some of us live to be 97. Some of us live to be, you know, 47 or 7 months or however long, you know. We don't know how long our life is going to be. I think when people are younger, it's more tragic, and because they haven't had as much life as the rest of us have lived, you know. But I think that those are moments that we often do feel more connected to the spirit, whatever spirit that is, that we feel strongly about, whether it's the universe or the wind or a higher power or whatever, you know? And I think we do feel more connected at those moments. So I think the question is, do we carry that with us throughout the rest of our lives, not just in those moments? Because I do believe, and I do wish that my spiritual strength was as strong always as it is in those moments. So those are just my thoughts. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. I love you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.